Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday Six. We're back. We made it a whole other week, if you will. I'm excited for this week. It's a little like last week in that there's not a headliner, at the top of the ticket. There's no Oregon, Ohio State. There's some interesting games in conference play that we're going to see this week. And we're going to cover them, today. But the interesting games in conference are going to, help us get a better idea of where some teams are, some of which have underperformed expectations a little bit to this point. I mean, Oklahoma is undefeated, but they haven't looked dominant yet. You could also say that outside of the game, in the horseshoe, Oregon has looked good, but not great. They've mostly gotten it done. They're of course not going to likely get tested. I mean, if they are tested today, that'll tell you something. Up against an Arizona squad that's absolutely abysmal. And I mean, really, it does look like it's, even Alabama looks a little more mortal than perhaps we've expected. That said, we're gonna start to figure out and put together a lot more about who's good. Partly because, in week 4, the web, as I talk about often, if you ever look at it like a topology, and maybe I'll put out a topology of the college football schedule, again, using Gephi. If you look at it as a topology, that sort of web, that map, that it's a mathematical expression of space and distance. You could see, to this point, the nodes, which would be like the dots on the graph, don't have a lot of edges, which would be those connecting lines, right? Between them, because we just don't have that many games yet connecting teams. And week 4 is where we start to get enough games that the model starts to really be able to do that sort of ordinal rank in a much better way. So this is the part of the season in a normal year where we really start decreasing. We start hitting the point where it's overwhelmingly in-season data. For some teams in beta rank, we hit that last week. We'll continue, this week to, I'm going to give it a run and see where we sit tomorrow morning and see if we're at a point where I'm comfortable just running full in-season data a little early, because the projection data is not great comparatively to other years. And then, we'll see. It'll be a little bit of a, see what minimizes the error from this last week the most. But, I'm certainly interested in getting off of the data, the in-season or the projection data as soon as possible. One of the things, though, is that the in-season numbers can still be a little volatile in how high the model might have some teams, right? Beyond the area where, for like certain metrics, like explosive drives, for example, or something like that, the model might have a team in an area where no team has ever measured before. And that's often not a sense that we're seeing something in college football that we've never seen before. It's simply that the model doesn't have enough data to correctly place them in what you might think of as the normal domain. Anywho, I'm excited for this week. It's already been a little crazy, to be frank. I mean, if you were up watching games last night, the App State game was certainly pretty good, but last night we had some games that, certainly should give you something to chew on. Fresno State struggled with UNLV pretty mightily, and that was a non-turnover aided performance by UNLV. UNLV was a 30-point underdog in Vegas, 38 points in beta rank, and they've only lost by 8 points to the Bulldogs. That's pretty rough for Fresno State. And it mostly looks like Fresno's defense really struggled in that game with UNLV, a team that I think put up 14 yards in the second half against ASU. So we certainly have some questions about Fresno's defense to chew on. Syracuse also upset Liberty at home. The Liberty was a 7-point favorite, on the road in the Carrier Dome. They did turn the ball over once, but Syracuse finishes, winning by 3. So that was a little bit unusual. And Syracuse jumped out to a really early 14-point lead there. And then Liberty, came back to tie it, and then ended up, losing the game. just another data point to chew on as we go in. But I'm excited for the games we're going to cover today. Like I said, we've got some good ones. And the advanced stats are starting to hit the point where they're going to settle down, and certainly by the end, either tomorrow or next Sunday, we'll be out of all projection data altogether. A little early. It may only end up being a week early, but a little earlier than we would normally be in college football. So with all that, and I didn't do the all important, it's conference time. It's conference time. Most of the games we're going to cover today, I think all the games we're covering today, with the exception of Notre Dame and Wisconsin. We're going to cover one other non-conference game. But the majority of the games we're going to cover today are conference games. A lot of teams are starting conference play at sort of that time. We've built out non-conference play is really important in creating a solid foundation to do team comparisons across conferences. And we're out of most of that. Most of the non-conference games in college football have already been played. So this is going to be a lot of fun to start to see this come together and start to get into some more normal numbers for college football. So that said, let's hop in and start the games. Our first game on the docket is a conference game, and I'm pretty pumped for this one because this pits a defense that's been playing pretty well. Certainly, they do bring in some weight from last season, this West Virginia defense. Neil Brown's your head coach at West Virginia. Lincoln Riley, of course, is your head coach at Oklahoma. This West Virginia defense here, we've got them at 35. Their play caller is Jordan Leslie. Their underlying metrics aren't as good. And so that's something to keep an eye on here. So their projection is driving some of this 35 ranking we have them at now. Something to keep an eye on here is they're kind of been ranking as sort of a middling Power 5 defense in the limited data. Particularly with drive efficiency, you've been able to put up some drives to put up points against them. Their explosive drives numbers not great either, giving up some big plays. They've been better against the pass than they've been against the run. They get an Oklahoma offense that's, struggling in some phases, right? Like teams have really been playing, a lot of very high 2 safety looks against Oklahoma, trying to contain big plays. They've been pretty effective doing it. Oklahoma hasn't really been able to break it out and consistently put up chunk yardage. Oklahoma's sitting at number 7 overall, here on offense. But their drive efficiency is good. The teams are trying to force them to put together long drives to put up points. They've been able to do it for the most part, but their explosive drives at 104 and their play efficiency at 116 aren't great. They really do need to figure out how to put up some bigger plays. Even if it is, having to put them under, put up bigger plays underneath the safeties, they need to get that average up. They're sitting in their negative drives is pretty good. Could certainly get some improvement there. Too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers. Their run pass split is pretty good for a team, that's ranking as high as they are, throwing the football around. Certainly something to keep an eye on. I think they have one of the best offensive line coaches in the business. I'm excited to see this matchup on this side of the ball in particular. But flip it around and it gets really, I guess if you're me, it gets really interesting. I'm really interested to see this here because West Virginia's offense is decent this year, better than we've even maybe expected. They haven't been amazing in years past. Jared Parker is your offensive coordinator here. At least under Neil Brown, they haven't been amazing a lot of the years. 26 overall. Their drive efficiency numbers are really good. They've been able to put together long drives to be able to put up points. Their explosive drives number isn't great. This is something to keep an eye on here. They're going to need to find a way to put up some big plays here. And their negative drives, they need to force some more 3 and outs and turnovers. They've been a lot better against the pass than they've been against the run. They've been a lot better throwing the ball than they've been running the ball coming into this game. Oklahoma's defense is really interesting to see here because a lot of their positives in here are coming from this overall, this projection right now, which we had them projected pretty highly. They were pretty good last season. They've been struggling a little bit more this season. Their drive efficiencies at 106, their explosive drives, they've given up long drives to put up points that you wouldn't have expected them to. They've given up some big plays that you wouldn't have expected. And their negative drives number, is really the best. Their play efficiency is very good, or middle of the road for Power 5. Compared to their other numbers, it's very good. But they have, they're still ranked pretty well against the pass. They rank pretty well against the run. Some of that, of course, is the preseason weight in there. Something to keep an eye on, though, as we come out of this game is, where does Oklahoma's defense really shake out, right? We should have a lot more data in for them, that will be able to settle down and take a good look on where we have this defense. This is the key component for Oklahoma to be able to get going. I think offensively, they're likely to be able to get the offense going and figure it out. They're going to figure out ways to, even if they have to put up big plays underneath, if teams are throwing two quite high safeties at them to contain big plays. But this Oklahoma offense, you do have faith in to figure it out. We really do need, though, to see. We haven't seen Oklahoma's defense put up good numbers in a regular college football year. We've certainly seen improvement in a regular college football year. 2019, they were better than they had been in prior years under Alex Grinch. We saw them take a leap last year. We need to see that leap sustained if we want to believe in Oklahoma as a real title contender. We've got Oklahoma at 81% win probability at home, 10.67 in beta rank on the point spread. So this should be a fun game. I'm excited to see it. Keep an eye. West Virginia is absolutely talented enough and well coached enough to be able to keep this close enough where you're going to want to watch the game. This will be an interesting one. So Wisconsin's offense, I don't know. So Paul Chryst took back over play calling duties. He's your head coach. Of course, Brian Kelly, not Paul Kelly. Brian Kelly is your head coach at Notre Dame. This Wisconsin offense, they're not in quite the ditch they were in last season. They really struggled last year offensively, but their drive efficiency is pretty good at number 9 overall. Again, it seems like a common theme with some teams. They're struggling a little bit with explosive, putting up big plays right now. Their negative drives number is really bad. Too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers. Again, some limited data for this team up to this point, but 10 in effective rush, 110 in effective pass. Mertz has not been great. And they've really got to figure out a way to get him going. I don't think I don't think Wisconsin's going to be necessarily Oklahoma or someone like that and slinging the ball around. They're not certainly going to have a Mike Leach type split. That said, they've got to be able to have the passing game work to be able to keep teams from loading up against the run. So it's something to keep an eye on as we, come into this game. This Marcus Freeman coach Notre Dame defense is decent. Some of this is projection, keeping them up at 18 right now. They've struggled. They've given up some long drives to be able to put up points. They're better against explosive drives containing big plays. Their negative drives forcing 3-and-outs is also decent. No big run pass split here. Something to keep an eye on in this game is, are they able to really contain the run? Because Mertz up to this point hasn't shown he's going to really be able to torch you. And he really struggled against a pretty good Penn State defense. So this side of the matchup is going to tell us a lot too about, where Wisconsin's going to slot in that Big Ten West. The one thing that I'm absolutely sure of in the Big Ten West right now is that Iowa has a very, very good defense under Phil Parker again. And then Wisconsin looks to have a pretty good defense too. I guess that's two things I'm sure of, but that's not beyond that. It's very up in the air. Iowa's offense isn't going to be very good. So, if Wisconsin can get in the same range as Iowa's defense and add some offense on the top, then, they're your likely favorite. On the other side of the football, you got Tommy Rees as your Notre Dame offensive coordinator. Their numbers are all right. They've got a pretty good run pass split going themselves, actually, at this point in the season. But 25 overall. Their drive efficiency is decent. Again, there's some volatility in these numbers, but I think they likely settle down as maybe a top 25 offense. A little higher than here, perhaps, depending on how today goes. Their explosive drives, they've been a little better at that, putting up, big plays to put up points. Their negative drives number is a little bit of a watch out. Thus far, they've been a little more susceptible to 3-and-outs and turnovers than you'd like. Like I said, big run pass split. That's a little bit of a surprise. Notre Dame, hasn't leaned into the pass game as much as maybe you would have even liked. It's certainly a sign that they trust Jack Cohn coming into this game. It's going to be a really tough matchup for them. This is going to be one of the best defenses they face all season. Jim Leonard is your defensive coordinator at Wisconsin. Future highly paid defensive coordinator at somewhere other than Wisconsin, or future head coach. Like he's either leaving for a big payday or a head coaching job. He's done a terrific job with this Wisconsin defense. They're at number 6 overall, number 15 in drive efficiency. They really do. Their numbers have stood. If you look across this is not being held up by projection thus far. This is, held up by their performance in game. So drive efficiency is great. Explosive drives, they've contained big plays. Play efficiency, their yards per play, all of these are controlling for opponent field position here. Their negative drives number, they're excellent at. They force a lot of 3-and-outs, a lot of turnovers. And then, no big run pass splits. There's no real big advantage, I think. I think that there's been a little bit of a myth that Wisconsin's just elite at stopping the run. They're also quite good at stopping the pass up until this point in the season, which, limited data up to this point. We'll see how they do. This Notre Dame team is going to try to throw it, judging by the tendencies that they've shown up to this point. This should be a good one. We've got Wisconsin as only a 3-point favorite at Soldier Field, a 61% win probability. A turnover either way could likely sway this game in either direction. So this will be a fun one to watch as well. Who would have thought after week 1 we would spend hardly any time talking about Stanford? And here we are. So Stanford coached by David Shaw, UCLA, of course, coached by Chip Kelly. Stanford's offense has been something, and I feel like we talk about this, or I talk about this pretty often, because we still get people that just have not, watched football in a while that get paid to talk about football. Stanford's offense, people think of it as still, a run-based attack. It absolutely is not. They throw the football around these days. So they come in at 18. They've really settled in with Tanner McKee at quarterback. They've been very efficient. If you look at it, their drive efficiency numbers are pretty good. They are able to put together long drives to put up points. When they get the ball, they do usually find, the end zone. 24 in explosive drives. They are finding ways to put up big plays, and in ways that I think you really had questions on coming out of that Kansas State game. They really, in a limited sample, they've answered those questions for the most part, in my opinion. They've played pretty well in the games that we've seen so far. Their play efficiency is excellent. Putting up a really solid yards per play, controlling for opponent field position. The one sort of watch out is negative drives is a little high, 55 in negative drives up to this point. Not a huge run pass split by some of the Stanford standards that we've seen of late. I mean, they certainly, they have a new offensive line coach in. They haven't necessarily fixed the run blocking. They still have some really talented running backs. I'm interested to see if they're able to clean this up a little bit and continue to progress. If not, I think McKee's been, fantastic up to this point. This is a game where you're likely going to, against this UCLA defense, if you were looking in that bottom right corner of where their splits are, you're likely going to lean into throwing the football around. UCLA's defense comes in at 43. And some of this is projection. Some of this is, the in-season data still for them as well. But 29 in drive efficiency. They've been middle of the road Power 5 at not giving up long drives for points. They've struggled. They've given up some big plays, 53 there. 18 in play efficiency. So to yards per play, they're settling in a little bit. They're at number 18. That's a decent number. But 101 in negative drives, not enough 3-and-outs, not enough turnovers for them. And their run pass splits, their cornerbacks, which had looked pretty good. In the limited sample we'd seen up to that Fresno game, man, they did not look good. They got torched by Fresno. And that's a big concern. I think Stanford's got some quality wide receivers. This is going to be a test for them. Jerry Azzanaro is your defensive coordinator for UCLA. I mean, you like Stanford to be able to come in and put up some points at home in this game for sure. On the other side of the football, man, this is an unexpected number for me for this Stanford defense. So we'll see how this shakes out. But UCLA offensively first, they're at 17 in beta rank. Their drive efficiency absolutely stinks. Chip Kelly's your play caller here. Tavita Pritchard, I don't think I mentioned it. Tavita Pritchard, your play caller for the Stanford offense. Chip Kelly's offense here, they struggle with drive efficiency. They haven't really relied on, stringing together drives to put together points, putting plays together. They've been a lot more of an explosive offense, putting up big plays. If you haven't seen this new Chip Kelly offense, they're a lot of fun to watch in their run design. They really do often find the tight end and utilize the tight end. So keep an eye on Greg Dulcich in this game. He's usually their go-to playmaker in the passing game. There are 43 in negative drives. They've given out a few more 3-and-outs and turnovers than you like. They do have a bit of a run-pass split. They're better in effective rush than they are in throwing the football around. In comes Stanford, a team that for the most part right now though is being, the in-season number weight is carrying them a little bit because we didn't have them projected very highly. They've been a very bad defense for a while. So to see them in their in-season numbers tracking here is a bit of a surprise. So 22 in beta rank overall right now. Middle of the road Power 5 and drive efficiency, better in explosive drives here containing big plays. Their play efficiency number is quite good at 10. Negative drives is also pretty good at 24. They don't have a big run pass split. I mean, again, some of this run pass number is being, is calculated off of the projection numbers, but just something I'm really interested to see if the Stanford defense can hold up under Lance Anderson here. They haven't been in this range this good in a really long time. We'll get a real sense of it today because they're going to get to go against another pretty good offense here in the Bruins. Oh, and we've got Stanford at 72% and almost a 7-point favorite at home. That is a flip. Vegas has this as a UCLA favorite in this game. I think people are underestimating where the Stanford offense is under McKee. Now, the defense, of course, could be a lot worse than beta rank has it right now. So we'll see. The limited data could come back to bite me. Letting this much in-season data in could come back to bite me on this one. And of course, Stanford's dance partner from game one. And this is another one where I really am like, I need to see a little more data to confirm this. So Kansas State's offense under Courtney Messingham, Chris Kleeman's your head coach for Kansas State. Their offense this North Dakota State offense hasn't translated for the most part into FBS, either at Kansas State or at Wyoming. This would be the first year we've seen them put up like a decent or good Power 5 offense in Manhattan. So let's see if it holds up. Thus far, they've been all right, not great at drive efficiency. What they've really been good at is putting up big plays. Their explosive drives number, of course, controlling opponent field position is fantastic. Their play efficiency is also excellent there at number 2. Their negative drives, avoiding 3-and-outs, avoiding turnovers, really good. Something to keep an eye on though is they have a huge run pass. I mean, this is a really effective rushing attack. Unsurprising if you've watched North Dakota State. But that's something to keep an eye on here because they get an Oklahoma State defense that, took a step forward last year. And it's, because it was in last year's data, we want to see it continue in this year's data. Jim Knowles is your defensive coordinator here. Their drive efficiency number is really their weakest number. You have been able to put together drives to put up points against this Cowboys defense. Flip it though, this explosive drives number is really good. They have prevented teams from putting up big plays. They have a negative drives number. It's also pretty decent, right? I mean, number 36 overall compared to, some of the Cowboy defense numbers we've seen in the past. These are all really, pretty good numbers. So they can find ways to put up 3-and-outs and turnovers. And not a big run pass split, a little more vulnerable against the run, something to keep an eye on because it's, limited data. But this matchup here against Kansas State, of course, you are going to have to stop them from running the football. I'm fascinated to see how this shakes out for them if they're able to make this work. This is a really good matchup. Kind of a little under the radar. I mean, it's on ESPN Plus, a little under the radar. Oklahoma, everyone thinks of as having a real stranglehold. On that run to the Big 12 title. We'll see if they're dominant enough. We'll start to see if they're dominant enough this week to where they can get by if they have a bad game and not take a loss. That's the bugaboo, of course, of nearly every. I mean, it has been of Oklahoma in recent years, is they were very good, but they weren't good enough to win on a really bad night against a decent team. We're going to start to see though which other Big 12 teams might be in that range they could take Oklahoma down, and then really too, what's the other pecking order going to be behind the Sooners? This is a good matchup on both sides of the football. So I'm really interested here. Casey Dunn's your offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. It did not work under Sean Gleason. It was the wrong offense. And so for him going to Rutgers, I think worked out for both parties. I've said that a couple times. That said, Casey Dunn, who was the runner-up to Gleason, he was a longtime wide receiver coach, one of the best wide receiver coaches in the business in college football. They have struggled to put it together. Some of it's on the quarterback. I'm just not sure he's necessarily, Spencer Sanders is the right QB for Oklahoma State, but he's the QB that they have. So anywho, they're at 52 in drive efficiency thus far. Their overall number is not bad. But some of that's, we'll need to see them continue to put it together with, some of these other numbers. They really need to pick up on explosive drives though. I mean, 94 overall there. They need to find a way to put up more big plays, controlling for opponent and field position. Their negative drives number is decent. Their play efficiency is actually quite good at number 9. But not a big run pass split. I mean, they're a more balanced team than maybe you would have expected as they came back into a little bit more of a passing oriented attack. But I think Sanders limits them a little bit as a passer. This Kansas State defense though looks pretty good in the in-season numbers so far. Something to keep an eye on. They're overall they're at number 30 in beta rank. Their drive efficiency and explosive drives have been quite good in the limited in-season, in the data so far. Their play efficiency is also very good here. 44 in negative drives. That one is they do need to find a way to force more 3 and outs and turnovers. This part has worked. This North Dakota State defense has mostly translated into college football, and you can see it in a couple places, including Michigan State, here in Manhattan, and also at Wyoming. Not quite yet up in the Palouse, where you have another disciple of the North Dakota State defense going, but here you have I'm trying to find Joe Klanderman's your defensive coordinator for K-State. This is going to be this side of the ball is also going to be a really fun matchup. Which of these units is really going to figure it out and get it going. We've got Oklahoma State, Kansas State is a true toss-up game, 50-50. This should be a real fun one to watch. I would tune in and watch this game on. I will tune in and watch this game on ESPN Plus. You should too. The revenge game. So, man, LSU did not have a fun time in this game last year. Of course, Mississippi State did not have any fun after this game last season. So this should be a bit of a fun matchup. We've got. Mississippi State's defense right now, their in-season numbers aren't quite holding up to this number 5 overall rank right now. But for LSU, the offensive numbers that we have, in the bank so far are an improvement, in some ways over what we saw last year. Their main big number here is drive efficiency at number 18. They've been pretty good at putting together long drives to be able to put up point. Explosive drives, I mean, and some of these numbers are still a little volatile in the underlying data. 64, they do need to find a way to put up a few more big plays. Play efficiency is pretty good at 26. Negative drives isn't great at 71. We have a huge run pass split for this team. I mean, they are really leaning into throwing the football around. That's something to keep an eye on. They get a pretty good defense under Zach Arnett. I mean, the overall rank at number 5 is excellent. Their underlying numbers right now, in the in-season data aren't quite in a top 10 range, but still a good defense under Zach Arnett. And that's a really good thing, I think, for this Bulldogs program. The drive efficiency is pretty good at 22. Explosive drives is at 27. Their play efficiency is, struggling a little bit more at 64 overall, but they make up for it. They do a really good job with negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. No big run pass split here. They're certainly going to be tested in the passing game by this LSU offense coached by Jake Peetz here. This should be a fun matchup. I mean, the LSU offense what hurt LSU the most last year, oddly enough, was the offensive fallout, because their offense have been so good in 2019. It was just a massive fall off. But of course, the defense looks interesting. They've struggled against the pass thus far this season. They've been a little bit better against the run. Some of this, of course, is some, projection data still in there. Their drive efficiency number is not great at 69 overall. Their explosive drives number, again, at 36. That's something they're going to have to work on. They're going to have to, be better at both, stopping long drives and, containing big plays. Their play efficiency is not great. And their negative drives number at 48 isn't fantastic. They need to force more 3 and outs, force some more turnovers. But it is kind of worrisome coming in against a Mike Leach coach team to be struggling a little bit against the pass, because this Mississippi State offense here, they're not putting up excellent numbers up to this point. 89 overall in beta rank. They should have been able to put up more points in that game against Memphis. Memphis gave up just an absolute ocean of yards to Arkansas State the week before, and then really struggled. Mississippi State did, putting up points against them the following week. Their drive efficiency is not great at 111, 61 in explosive drives. They need to clean this up. They need to be both more efficient and more explosive. 73 in negative drives, too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers. Their effective rush number, of course. I mean, the joke is somewhat Mike Leach doesn't call run plays. You just check into him at the line, depending on what look the defense gives you. But this is going to be, I don't know that. I mean, LSU certainly has, all the talent in the world, with the talent advantage here. And of course, on the other side of the ball, it's Mike Leach versus Durante Jones. The DC for LSU. I'm interested to see. I think this LSU defense might still continue to take shape as the season goes on. But as we talked about, they really do have just a world of talent on this side of the ball. A little better coaching and scheme, and they should be able to slow down this Mississippi State offense. Mike Leach's offense is just not up to this point, and last week is another example where really against a not great defense, a not great group of 5 defense, they struggled to put up points and figure things out. Leach is not, we joked around in the preview for Mississippi State, whether Mike Leach was a mule. I mean, just as he's that stubborn that he can't make adjustments to figure out how to beat what SEC teams are showing him. And to this point, he really hasn't. So this is another one to see, because LSU's defense hasn't been great up to this point, and I think this will be a good one to watch. LSU, we've got them at 61% win probability on the road, 2.83 points. This should be a tight one, even with, some of the big splits that we've seen here. And there is the possibility, that there could be some points in this game if LSU is able to get it going, offensively. But in all of the, what I like up to this point, the biggest point spread we've covered, is that Oklahoma game. That's, 2 turnovers, and West Virginia is absolutely in this game. The rest of these games, we've covered up to this point. They've all been 1 turnover could swing the game either way. The group of 5 game of the week. This is a really interesting one. Western Michigan's head coach, Tim Lester, is actually out due to COVID protocols. And Lou Esposito, the defensive coordinator, will be your head coach for this game. at home against San Jose State. San Jose State has struggled compared to what we saw last year. We saw a team that put it together, won the Mountain West. We're gonna get to see where they sit, this season, and trying to figure some things out. So Western Michigan's offense grades out pretty well thus far, particularly for a Group of 5 team. 27 overall in beta rank. Jake Moreland is your offensive coordinator here. Their drive efficiency is pretty good at 22. They've been able to put up some big plays as well, 19 in explosive drives. A little bit of a watch out for play efficiency, but it is the least important of the core 4 beta rank metrics. Negative drives, not a ton of 3 and outs, not a lot of turnovers. All of these look pretty good in the in-season data, in fact. So you have some confidence with this Western Michigan team, which hasn't exactly played like, a bottom of the barrel schedule. Of course, they're going to get some bye games against some Power 5 teams. They've been okay. In comes the San Jose State defense. They've been okay. I mean, they've got some really good numbers and hiding under here. They've also got some, less good numbers. So, these will of course all settle down a little bit. And you won't have this, big split between them as we get more in-season data in. But 46 in beta rank here, 6 in drive efficiency. You have, they have for the most part managed to not give up long drives to put up to give up points. 55 explosive drives though is that's where you can hurt this team a bit. They are less good at containing big plays, less good at keeping teams off the board with explosives. Negative drives though, this is one to. My dog just woke up and looked at me. Negative drives, just not forcing enough 3 and outs and turnovers. They do have a decent run pass split here. That'll be something to keep an eye on. Western Michigan. I almost said Michigan State. Western Michigan might look to exploit this team a little bit through the air from what we've seen. But we'll also get to see if some of this is just the effect of having played a team like USC, which has a pretty good run pass split in their efficiency already. Flip it around. This offense for the Spartans is just surprising, to find them where they are. Kevin McGivens, your OC here. I mean, just a really well-coached team for the most part under Brent Brennan, but the offense right now is really struggling. 118 in drive efficiency. I forgot to look it up. I don't believe Nick Starkel's injured. I'm going to just check that lickety split. Doesn't look like it. So, all right. It's not an injury issue in all likelihood. Just struggling up to this point. I mean, 118 in drive efficiency, 111 in explosive drives. All of these are really bad numbers. 117 in play efficiency. Their negative drives numbers not great. They're better throwing the ball than they are running the ball. But if you're going to you're going to have a split like this, like where you're at 126, say, where you're really ineffective at running the football, you have to be very, very good throwing the ball, right? Like you have to be like, for example, like an air raid type team when they're actually rolling, like if USC right now had a top, 10 offense, like, and in years, 2 years ago when they did have like a legit, top 10-ish offense under Graham Harrell, and they were running, like they still run the ball. They still ran the ball a lot, but for dumb reasons. Anyway, they graded out with a really, effective passing game. They flip it. You get a decent group of 5 decent. I mean, not a great group of 5 defense from Western Michigan, but a decent group of 5 defense under Lou Esposito. They've been pretty good with their drive efficiency up to this point, containing, long drives, forcing teams forcing teams off the field. Little less good against explosive drives. That's not all that surprising given the kind of schedule they've played up to this point. Negative drives at 64. That's something to keep an eye on here. If that number holds up, you should see them be able to, against the San Jose State offense, which is struggling, be able to put up some, 3 and outs and turnovers. Not a really big run pass split either way. We've got Western Michigan at 81% here. With a 10.67 win probability. I'm interested to see this game is really interesting to me because I do think Western Michigan is kind of a sneaky good team in the MAC. They're a team that I'm keeping an eye on as we get a little closer to MAC conference play and we start seeing action on those midweek nights, Western Michigan might be a team you really want to tune in and see on for Tuesday night. Is it Tuesday night football? I mean, I feel like the MAC owns Tuesday and Wednesday nights, but those early week games that they put on, which are fun. But then, where is San Jose State, right? Like Fresno State looked really vulnerable last night. Nevada certainly looks, like they still have a fun offense. San Jose State won the Mountain West last year. What do we get to see out of them? Are they able? I mean, and Boise certainly looks pretty good, even with that loss last week to Oklahoma State at home. Where does San Jose State shake out in this, right? Like, can they get the offense really rolling again where they were last year? They're going to have to if they want to compete in the Mountain West. So that was it. That was bad. 41 minutes. I'll try to wrap it up. So, that's week 4. Is it week 4? It is week 4. That's week 4. I'm excited. This is going to be a fun week in college football. And I think I'm probably mostly excited because we're just going to get a bunch more college football data in. And I'll have, cleaner, better numbers to work off of, even as we head into next week. So, tune in. Absolutely. Let me know if you have any thoughts on this. I don't know if I'll necessarily catch them in chat and Twitch. I'm not quite sophisticated enough to talk and chat as I go through this. I'll try to get to that point at some point. Maybe we'll just have a chat session at some point on here. Anywho, let's just hop out because I'm tired. There's not enough coffee. I need stronger coffee. You can find all the numbers you just saw and a whole lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. They're in Data Studio. They're sortable. Pretty easy to use, for a totally free BI tool. I'm Rob Bauer, and I'm the econometrician behind BetaRank. You can find me at BetaRank FB or at Sharp College Football. We have a Pac-12 podcast. You can find us at 12 Pack Radio. You can find all the back episodes of that at sharpcollegefootball.com/12 Pack Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. There is a sneaky bunch of good games this week, even though there's no headliner out there. Part of it, now that said, like a lot of the teams, like if we were going through, like Alabama and Ohio State are each favored by 1 million points against the teams that they're playing. So like I said, there's not really a headliner game, but underneath that there's some decent games out there on the schedule this week. So tune in. You might have to flip around a little bit to find it. The Pac-12 has outside of that Oregon State, the Oregon blowout against Arizona, the Pac-12 and a bunch of these games are on the Pac-12 network has some decent games. Washington Cal is likely one. I do want to find out where the Huskies sit. After a little bit of a rebound last week, where do they shake out as we head into conference play after, running face first into a brick wall? Anywho, that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there.